Buddies, welcome back. So in the last video, you witnessed that we can indeed go on a tour in an electric vehicle to a neighboring city and come back without having to charge it on the way or at your point B, that is your destination in the neighboring city. So that is fine, but any of you, when you buy an electric vehicle, you will end up in one situation at least one time in your life. That is what my friend and I did a couple of days ago. That is, we were on a highway known as ORR, Outer Ring Road in Hyderabad. Alright, so after that Warangal trip, I was all pepped up, happy, and my friend and I, we went to our airfield and we were coming back and we were kind of having fun driving, electric car like a sports car. And when we were on the highway, we realized that we have 7% battery and about 35 kilometers to go. Whoa! Okay, and that is a highway which is an express highway. So we can't even stop on the highway or leave our car there and come back. Now, we currently in our country are in a situation where the whole ecosystem of charging points, where just like you go to a fuel station, okay, you can fill up fuel and you'll find a fuel station every few kilometers, right?
Absolutely.
That is how a charging point, for example, charging point should be there in every fuel station in the future, as a matter of fact. That is not there right now, okay? It will happen very soon. Now very soon could be even 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, we don't know. But even say 7 years from now, where you have a charging point in every fuel station. Now, even in today's date, with fuel stations being available almost everywhere, we have faced situations where we almost ran out of fuel, right? Yeah?
Not quite.
Not quite, but
not for me.
Yeah, yeah. So could be on a super bike somewhere we
Absolutely.
go. Yeah, it can happen sometimes.
It can, yeah.
So, in an electric car, if you face a situation where you have to cover 30 or 40 kilometers and you have single digit charge numbers, what do? It is a very, very important thing to learn for anyone thinking about buying an EV or who already owns an EV. Okay, so my friend, okay, let me introduce him to you. His name is Mahir Master and he is indeed master of many things. He's been my friend for probably 25 years now and he's a pilot. Alright, so in general, when it comes to technical things, he understands them very well. And that day, when we were in a situation where we had 7% charge and 35 kilometers to go, he took control of the situation, just like how any captain would take care of, Mayday situation. And he already did his reading on an EV. And let me ask him how and what he thought about that day. Mars!
Well, Vikas, first of all, it was a pleasure driving the MG EV. It was fantastic to drive, great experience. Initially, it's a little strange when you start the car, you don't hear anything, and you start moving. It's amazing. But once you're up to speed and driving, it's like any other car, other than the regeneration system when you back off the gas and it starts slowing you down. Other than that, it's beautiful to drive. Coming back to that situation that day when we were on the ORR, it gets a little scary when you see 7%, but I was looking more at the range numbers, and although we had about 35 kilometers to go to reach home, and we had a range showing maybe 20 or something like that, which sounded a little bad, and then we were wondering whether we would need to park the car or take a decision on what to do. But fortunately, I had read a lot that night before we went, and strangely, a lot of people may not know this, is that EVs have an optimum speed of just 20 kilometers per hour. So you get your maximum range at 20 kilometers per hour, which is really slow, which is not nice on an ORR where you're doing 100, but it was an emergency situation and we needed to get home.
Yeah.
So what we did was initially the MG EV has a minimum cruise control speed of 30 kilometers per hour. So initially I was doing 30 on cruise control, so that's the most, that smooth acceleration, deceleration
Correct.
for the longest time. Once we got off the ORR, I was on manual power because it was doing even better, so I was keeping to about 20 kilometers per hour. With the AC off, you saw me.
He was driving the MG, and at one point we actually picked up his car, which was parked somewhere else. So I was driving a gasoline, regular car, and he was in the MG all alone. And he was going on the road, and we looked at him. The whole car condensed from inside, like the Titanic movie, and he was going at 10 or 12 kilometers an hour. That was, I mean, why, I don't know, why didn't we record those videos?
No, I think it was raining, and our hearts were in our mouth, wondering whether we'll reach home or not. So I think those were when you're in those situations, you don't want to make a video.
Correct.
Although you wish you had. Okay, so now we've reached Trimalgiri, and it's showing 3% battery. 9 kilometers range, and we have probably about 4 kilometers to get home. The only way this was possible was by driving below 20 kilometers per hour with curves on 3, which is regeneration, so that every time I have to brake in traffic, just by getting my foot off the gas, it's actually charging the battery and not using any brakes whatsoever. Let's hope we make it home.
Correct.
But yeah, so basically we were doing maximum economy driving, where you just doing about 20, and I literally did not touch the brakes at all because I had the regen system, which is your curve system, on 3, which is your maximum setting. So as you get your foot off the accelerator, it starts regenerating, which causes braking. So if you plan your driving batteries, you can extend your range.
That is Kinetic energy recovery system, right?
Which was, if I'm not mistaken, started in Formula 1, because most of these technologies come from Formula 1. So this was implemented on road cars after that, which is great. And you can literally drive this car with just your right foot. You can leave your left foot aside because you rarely need to touch your brakes. And so we drove at 20 kilometers per hour. You were zooming ahead of me all the time. But and after a certain point I realized that yes, we are going to make it home, because the battery percentage kind of held for a long time and the range also held, and I kept moving. And eventually I think we reached home with 2% battery and 5 kilometers in the bank, which is when I offered Vikas if you'd like to come for a cup of coffee before we reach home. But he said, no, I want to just get home and charge the car. So that was a interesting experience, and a very important thing for any EV owner to realize, that if you're stuck in a situation where you're down to single digits on your battery charge, you need to slow down. You need to bring the speed down to 20. Your wife or your girlfriend is going to curse you, but you have to take that and get home safe.
True.
Instead of getting stuck somewhere. Okay. Update is that is now 3% battery still, showing a range of 9 kilometers. We are now 1 kilometer away from home. It's raining, my wipers are on. I just got the parking light on to save battery, and I think we should make it comfortably now. More from home.
So basically, we have to drive as slow as possible. But slow means at least at about 10 or 15 kilometers per hour.
Absolutely,
and the best way to do is what Mahir mentioned, is that put it in drive, just like how you put any automatic car into drive mode, and let your foot go off the brake pedal, correct? And the car starts rolling ahead at about 10 odd kilometers per hour, and just use the steering and maneuver the car, right?
In fact, since you mentioned this, it's a good point to know for anybody driving a car. Is these cars are normally designed to drive at a certain minimum speed for when you're driving in a complex where you have pedestrians and stuff. So like an automatic car like my Cruise, if I get it in drive, release the brake, it does 10 kilometers per hour. The MG was doing 10 as well.
Even now when I entered his society, it was written 10 kilometers per hour.
Exactly.
And I did the same thing.
Yes.
I took my right foot off the brake pedal and we were doing 10 kilometers an
Yeah,
hour.
so and in a manual stick, you would engage second gear and release the clutch, release the accelerator, she'll do 10. So that's
Right.
a good point to know.
Yes.
For non-EV users.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you had mentioned that some reviewer actually did well over 500 kilometers with a single charge
Yes.
and same MG, correct?
That's correct. I think they set a record of sorts where they actually taped the charging point and they had somebody officially checking. And once again in that video I saw the guy sweating, and and that's where I actually realized that, man, okay, it looks like you gotta drive slow. And that's when I did some research and found that so you turn off your air conditioning, you try not to use your headlights if it's option is available to you, and drive really slow, which is very odd because it's the opposite of a gasoline engine.
Correct. So they also, who did well over 500 kilometers, were probably driving at say 15-20 kilometers per hour.
They were probably doing about 20-30 is what he was doing. And again, another thing with the EVs is your temperature range, which makes a big difference to your battery efficiency. Is these are calibrated to about 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, wherein all the test your odor readings that they give you, or on your reviews and stuff, or when you buy the car, is going to be about 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, the testing that they do. So they test at 20-30 degrees, they drive at about probably 20 to 30, and that's how they come with the figures of 419 and stuff like that. But if you drive normally at 60, 70 or 80, you will never get 419 kilometers. But it's amazing in the city when you're driving. It's like it does well in the cities.
So that day when I went to Warangal and back, he had given me these inputs of using the curse, that is kinetic energy recovery system, and all of this beforehand. So what I was doing, okay, you all noticed in the video that my range and the actual kilometers I had to cover were always neck to neck. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, when I left Hyderabad, I had only a range of 285, and I did well over 300. So I outperformed the range. How? So as simple as this. In a regular car, when we are driving at about 80 or 90 kilometers an hour on a highway, okay, and you see a car ahead of you, or you're approaching a toll booth, or you're approaching a small town in between, what do? You take your foot off the throttle and you start braking, correct? So here on in any electric car, okay, see, we have tested MG, but this is applicable to any electric car. Could be Tesla, could be Tata Nexon, could be anything, correct?
Absolutely.
So now imagine yourself sitting in an electric car driving at about 80 to 90 kilometers an hour on our highways, because that is the maximum speed limit. And what I used to do, drive at 80 or 90 for about 3-4 minutes and intentionally take my foot off the gas. So I'm using that inertia where on the right side, just like a tachometer, okay, just like the RPM meter, you have a power meter, okay, in any EV. So the moment I take my foot off the gas, it will start falling, and it will fall to 0 and below 0, where it will go to charge. And in any EV, you will have an option of seeing amps consumed and amps being generated by the kinetic energy recovery system.
That's correct.
So when you see amps in plus, it means amps are being used. Okay, amps is basically the battery's output of energy. I'll explain this later. So when I get my foot off the gas, there's a throttle at 80 or 90 kilometers an hour, and I just sit back and relax, my power needle would go into charge, and it would actually produce about 70 amps for 5 or 6 or 7 seconds. And I kept repeating this every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes. And when I see the toll gate ahead, you see a mark saying 1,000 meters to go for the toll gate, and I just let my throttle go. That's it. And for about another 2 minutes, I get that charging. So I kept doing that, and probably I put in about 10% charge into, or 5% charge into the battery. That is how I outperformed the range. So in general, what we understood is that, see, this is my second time testing an electric car. I did it last year, but last year I did not learn any of this. Okay, thanks to Maher this time. So this time what we learned is that there is some level of understanding of technology that you need to have, very small level.
You need to understand.
Yeah, you need to understand how batteries, how general charging and kinetic energy, all of this works. You need to read and understand, and then you will love your electric car, and you can use it for short tours and also in emergency situations.
Absolutely, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Thank you,
And
Max.
it's very important to understand these few points, and once you know this, then you feel more safe, and you're basically performing to your best ability.
Correct.
In an EV.
Correct. And another point, the only point used against an electric vehicle at this point of time in the world is that we are charging it using our home power supply. Correct. And people argue that the home power supply is nothing but it's coming from coal. Correct.
Right.
So I mean, coal is burned, and then that steam runs a turbine and all of that, and then it produces electricity. So we are anyhow burning something and then making electricity and then using it in an electric vehicle, and then we call it clean. So this is the biggest argument against electric vehicles. But in today's world, people spend a lot of money on a lot of things. But if possible, in our friend circle, one person should have a solar setup.
Or one person should have two, which we have.
Yeah. Like our mentor, Captain Vicky. He's got solar at home, and we have solar at our airfield. So this MG, all the time, we've had now, it's been a week since the MG has been with us. We did not use conventional electricity to power the MG. We have used solar. So it is 100% clean, 100% using solar energy to charge an electric vehicle. So completely clean, and as a matter of fact, free of costs.
Absolutely. In fact,
Free of cost.
I hope the MG dealership just lets us keep the car.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Very kind of them to let us use it. And
Yeah.
If they extend this for a little longer, we'll be happy.
Absolutely. Because you know what? You all know it, but I spend about 10 to 12,000 rupees on gasoline. Okay, that is petrol, for moderate driving. Moderate. About 1,000 odd kilometers every month, which is nothing. If you enjoy your car, you want to, use it every day, go on weekend drives, you'll spend up about 20-25,000 rupees.
Absolutely.
And if you spend a few lakhs installing solar at your home, and then buy an EV, the car will pay back within a few years.
Yeah, and it's also just that nice factor. You feel so nice about the clean energy that when you're driving, there's no fumes, there's nothing.
True.
Maybe your wife or girlfriend will be screaming at you for turning off the air conditioning, but other than that, it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. And the power. Oh my God. I mean, Mahir, the super biker, I've been riding super bikes, you know that. And generally, to get the kind of power that you get from an EV, okay, it could be Nexon, it could be MG. To get similar power, you probably have to spend 70-80 lakh rupees on a sports car or something,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, and you're getting it for.
And I'm sure there's much more power, but they don't want your wheels to start spinning.
Yeah.
So they're probably limited, but I'm sure there's much more power available.
Yeah, see, traction control, everything is coming in.
Absolutely,
The moment you step the gas.
Otherwise it's just so fast.
Correct. Just like Tesla, Ferraris and Porsches have been trying to break that mark of 3 seconds to 100 kilometers for decades.
Right.
They have not been. They probably got down to 2.8 seconds or so, but with all-wheel drive and all of that. Okay. And Tesla cars, even basic mid-range cars, they do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No super bike, no supercar can actually do that. So.
And it helps with the battery weight down below. You have a lower center of gravity. And the only maintenance on these cars, you're probably going to just shoot through your tires.
Correct.
That's pretty much it, because you're hardly using brakes. I think I've used the brakes on the MG in the last, I think I've driven it for maybe about 200 kilometers, and maybe I touched the brakes maybe 4 or 5 times
True.
in that whole time, So it's brilliant.
Absolutely true, And that is all about it, buddies. These videos could be a little boring for some people, but wait for a few years. these videos, you after a few years you'll come back and watch these videos again.
It's good to know when you
Yeah,
own an
true.
EV. And it's good
Yeah.
to know if you own anything, even a phone. It's good to
Right.
know how to save battery and stuff. It's the same
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. You can write to me. You can follow me on Instagram and all of that. And if you're not subscribed, you'll miss out on important videos like these.
And do subscribe.
Yeah. Thank you, buddies. And anything else to say, Mars?
No,
Unless
thank
you
you.
want to talk about Boeings and.
No, that's for another video.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.